So as I'm sure many of you know, coronavirus is the biggest issue right now. It's been declared a global pandemic, and I think it really highlights two things: the incompetence of the Trump administration and the need for a Bernie Sanders administration. So just to go through some of the things that Donald Trump has said, which are, frankly astounding. First he says that everyone who's coming into the United States is being tested for coronavirus, which is flat out false. This is easily verifiable, and it's clearly wrong. No one is being tested for the virus. And another thing that he said also that, this is so funny, he had to walk this back. Initially, he said that he's made an agreement with all our friends in the healthcare industry, right? That they're going to waive payments for coronavirus. So he was saying that, if you have coronavirus, you can go and get tested and treated for free. And then as soon as he said that, one of these lobbying firms came out and said, come here a second. We're waiving the testing fees. That's it. Which essentially means that if you go to get tested for coronavirus, you don't pay anything. But if you test positive and you need treatment, well, good luck with that, which is essentially the case with any other thing in America, whether you have a common flu or you have cancer or anything. And another thing that Trump said was, we're very close to finding a vaccine and we're going to get it out very soon. No, this is also completely wrong. And you had experts within the government saying that, no, we need at least a year and a half to actually come up with a vaccine, which is, usually the case. But of course, Donald Trump is, he has a natural ability. So watch out. I could be mistaken, though, because I've just received word. Yes, it's true. Alex Jones has come to save us, everybody. He's come out with a new toothpaste that can kill coronavirus instantly. Isn't that dandy? I'm so grateful. He's once again saved us from the reptilians and the lizard people. Out of all the snake oil stuff that Alex Jones has been plugging, this is really up there. So there's no vaccine coming soon. That was also false. And to make things worse, Donald Trump gutted the CDC, not just the funding, but he also fired all of the people who are in charge of pandemics, which, would have come handy in a pandemic. Just saying. So that's one thing. And look, man, there are so many things to go after Trump, but this is especially egregious. In times of a global pandemic, in times of a public health emergency, you really shouldn't be saying things like that. The most important point of this entire coronavirus fiasco, this pandemic, is that it really, really underlines the need for Bernie Sanders. This guy is the only candidate for president who has shown himself not just qualified and competent, but mentally, morally equipped to deal with things like this. It's really astounding. You are really starting to see now in the mainstream how all of these things that Bernie Sanders has been calling for years, since 2016, since 40 years ago, God damn it. Last week, they passed a bill for $8.3 billion, and now they're trying to pass another one in the House and the Senate to give emergency funding for, guess what? Expanding Medicare, giving people paid sick leave, all of the goddamn things that Bernie Sanders has been yelling about, getting angry about, rightfully so, for ages, okay? What people have already in most industrialized Western European countries and in Canada and all of the allies of the United States. Yeah, not communist countries. Astounding that people are finally trying to grasp this, and it's a shame that it had to take a global pandemic for it to finally get through some people's heads. Even Ben Shapiro was like, when are we going to have free coronavirus testing kits? Oh, now you are finally in favor of socialized medicine. You hypocrite, you fucking tool. According to you, we should just let the markets handle it. Right, Ben? Just let the markets handle it. The market is everything. How dare you speak ill of the market? How dare you suggest something like socialized medicine? Didn't you know that the market knows best? This guy is such a tool. And this is not just him. Even on CNN. Yes, on CNN, they are now advocating for universal single-payer healthcare. You can't make this up, man. Take a look.
That would lead to more testing, which would help public health officials get a better handle on containing the growing coronavirus outbreak. Now, here's something that helps explain the difference between the testing situation in South Korea and the U.S. The South Korea, like European countries and Canada, has universal single-payer insurance, and that means that it's easier to mobilize, and also people know what to do. There is pretty much one answer for how to get testing. The U.S. is a patchwork of countless different systems, and so you can't say, here's exactly the steps that every American should take in order to get tested. Jake?
And the other thing, Elizabeth, of course, is government officials keep saying Americans should check in with their primary care physician. 1/4 of the American people, according to a study by the Journal of American Medical Association, 1/4 of the American people don't have a primary care physician.
And Jake, I would bet that many primary care physicians, even if you have one, if you called them, they would say, gosh, I really don't know what to tell you.
What is going on? Are they finally having an epiphany? Has it finally gotten through? Let's put this into context for a second. In total, so far, the US has only tested 10,000 people for coronavirus. South Korea is doing 10,000 tests a day. That's a tiny country. America's 350 million people. What is going on here? Where is the quarantine? Where is the testing? Where's the large-scale response that you should expect from a first world industrialized country, from the best country on earth, the greatest country on earth? Where is it? There's tinier countries doing a better job at this than you. This is an embarrassment. You have no excuse. And I say the same thing for my country, for the UK. Completely unacceptable. It's a mess. They're not even closing schools. Not even that. They're like, yeah, whatever, just, do what you want, man. You don't even have to stay home. It is an embarrassment. And just think about this for a second. The fact in the US, you have no healthcare. It's like, oh, we'll make the coronavirus test free. You can go and get tested positive, but if you're positive and, you work in retail or you work a regular job, you work in service industry, just go back to work and infect other people. Why not? This is unacceptable. What are you doing? This is what you get when you have lobbyists and corporations that take over your government. They don't care what happens. They will let it all burn to the ground so long as they can make a buck. And even when it's burning to the ground, they will make you pay. They will charge you for a fire hose. That's literally perfect analogy for what's going on. Everything Bernie Sanders has been talking about is being put under the magnifying glass now. It's being put in the spotlight. It's so clear now why you have needed these programs, not just for a pandemic, and it's really actually messed up because you do have public health emergencies that are going on all the time that no one cares about. What about the male suicide epidemic? Do you know how many males kill themselves every day? Between 120, 140, 22 of them veterans every day. This is a crisis. This is a public health emergency that's just been going on now for years and years and years. No one cares. No one cares. Even to talk about it is like, oh, it's taboo. Don't talk about depression. Dude, that's just one example. You shouldn't have a deficit of infrastructure and incapacity to deal with these crises. And this is not just about universal health care. That's just one issue on its own. You also have paid sick leave, universal child care. You have so many social programs and safety nets that need to be in place, not just when you have coronavirus and a global pandemic, but in normal peacetime, so to speak. When things are stable, you need these social programs in place to make sure that people have safety and security, financially, economically, psychologically. But needless to say, if you had these things in place beforehand, they would have helped enormously. Because like I said before, you have people now that are afraid to go to the doctor. They can't get tested. They're afraid to go get tested. They don't know what's covered, what isn't. Yesterday, Bernie Sanders, he was on Jimmy Fallon, and they talked about coronavirus and healthcare. Take a look.
The idea that we have so many of our people in this country, the only country on earth, major country, doesn't guarantee health care to all people. We have to make sure that everybody right now feels free when you're sick to go to a doctor, regardless of your income. And you know what? The government will pay that bill. Number two, we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid medical leave. So if you can believe it, there are people who are sick today who may actually believe they have symptoms of the coronavirus who are going to work because they have no income. They're making $12, $13 an hour. They got to feed their families. They go to work. We have got to do what every other country on earth does and guaranteed paid family and medical leave, and do it right now on an emergency basis. There was a discussion recently. There's a lot of work being done globally in terms of a vaccine. And the Trump administration was saying, well, we can't guarantee that it will be affordable. We've got to worry about the drug companies. Well, that is a crock. That is ridiculous. We have got to make sure that when that vaccine comes out, it is available to everybody in this country, regardless of their income.
So once again, this shows you that Bernie Sanders is the only person who is mentally fit to be president, not just because of his policies, but you see also because of his temperament. Okay, I don't think Joe Biden yelling about corn pop and malarkey is going to be much use in a global pandemic. All right, this guy said last week that he would veto a Medicare for All bill if it landed on his desk. He's not interested in the public's well-being, in public safety, in public health. This guy's interested in pleasing his corporate donors, which is no different from Donald Trump, okay? So choosing between two demented goons who serve corporations is not really an option here. You need someone who is not only competent on policy, on the substance, who actually wants a universal single-payer healthcare program, but is also mentally prepared for that job and has people's interests at heart and not corporations. This entire election cycle, this entire campaign, Joe Biden has said absolutely nothing about coronavirus. Only after Donald Trump and after Bernie Sanders did he finally say something about coronavirus yesterday. Some measly speech. I think half of it was plagiarized off of Donald Trump, which is, really setting the bar low. And this is very concerning because think about this for a second. This guy aspires to be sitting in the Oval Office in 9 months. In 9 months. And he has not spoken at all. He's not even mentioned a public health emergency until now. What does that tell you about his priorities? What does that tell you about his temperament? What does that tell you about how competent this man will be when occupying the highest office in the country? Yeah, it doesn't really inspire confidence. Again, this guy has his priorities in place. They are corporate priorities. It's Wall Street. To boot, he's also, suffering from cognitive issues, if you want to put it mildly. He has dementia. He can't even speak properly. How's he going to manage a public health emergency? This guy shouldn't even be trusted to drive a car, never mind sit in the front seat of the most powerful nation on earth. That's a recipe for disaster. In conclusion, man, this entire crisis right now, it's not just underlying how badly prepared the Trump administration has been. They made sure that the infrastructure wasn't there, that there was absolutely no way of combating this thing. And on top of it, they reacted too slowly. So that's one thing. And it really highlights to you, no matter who is sitting in the Oval Office right now, whatever neoliberal hack it is or conservative hack, at the end of the day, you need someone like Bernie Sanders who's going to put forth these policies that benefit the working class and also a very solid infrastructure that actually helps you combat pandemics. If you have universal healthcare in place, if you had paid sick leave in place, you already have these programs, these safety guards to help you combat the crisis. And on top of that, you know that Bernie Sanders is going to act quickly. He's not going to hold back and think about, should I take this decision? Is that good for my corporate donors? No, he's going to think, wow, I should do this immediately so that people stop dying and people stop getting infected. There you go.